Hello and welcome to The Stack. This week we feature a new strategy studio helping out magazines find their feet in today's media landscape. Plus, it's summertime, so I speak with the founder of the Summer Hunter in Brazil, and we head to Hydra in Greece as well. Enjoy the show. From Midori House in London, this is The Stack, 30 minutes of print industry analysis, and I am Fernando Augusto Pacheco. We start the show on a very good note, welcoming back to The Stack James Laffar and Wray Schertler, now co-founders of In Real Life Media, a strategy studio redefining how print magazines and brands work together in today's media landscape. Born from their experience at Ryan Ollie and World Archive, In Real Life Media brings together their years of insights across editorial, agency, brand, and retail. I welcome both to the studio.
James and I, after working together on projects for several years, James and Ron Ollie has really been my trusted partner in distribution and go-to-market strategy for so many of the titles that I've worked on. And, through being a freelance consulting agent this past year, and kind of recognizing the needs and opportunities of our industry at the moment, we've decided to partner up to build In Real Life Media, which is a business development agency helping publishers launch and scale. Now, the interesting thing, or the kind of exciting thing as we see it about In Real Life Media, is it really leverages the fact that James and I have been positioned in this kind of bird's eye view level of the industry. James with Ron Ollie works across North America, the UK, Europe, and Australia with retail partners and helping publishers match with the right retail partners. And then with the titles that I've worked at and the teams that I've run teams in New York, London, Amsterdam, Hong Kong, Berlin, Paris. And to have that kind of global oversight with independent magazines really has felt so unique up until this moment. And I think now the industry is really ready to seize those opportunities and to help really kind of strengthen and future-proof the industry at large. So we're very excited to be launching In Real Life Media this August.
And James, I think future-proof is such a nice word for this as well, because I think our industry is booming. I'm seeing more and more titles. But there needs to be some sort of guidance as well, because we want it to stay that way. And I think that's more or less what you guys are doing together.
Exactly. That was what the kind of touch point was that we both kept landing on, was that there's all these great magazines launching, there's magazines relaunching, there's brands wanting to launch magazines, but it needs to be sustainable. And I think with both of our experience, we can really kind of make that happen. And globally, as Megan said, it's amazing the kind of where, from the whole perspective, the whole thing, from a retail, from a publishing side, it's such a global movement. The magazines are coming from everywhere. The retailers that want to start selling magazines are completely spread globally. It's the time to do it.
And in real life media, it's global. So you are based in New York, you are here in London, right? So you're going to work globally. So tell us a bit more how it's going to work. So you're open for people from all different countries as well.
Exactly. So really, our kind of signature engagement is a product that I've been developing while I've been freelance called the Magazine Accelerator.
We discussed this, I remember last year, right?
Exactly, yeah. And it's been honestly such a journey refining it over the past year. But what it really leverages is me kind of thinking about how successful the startup industry has been and the role that accelerator programs and an incubator mindset has been kind of in developing strong businesses and also weeding out businesses that maybe aren't ready to go to market. So I developed this Magazine Accelerator program to really help people kind of pressure test their concept, their idea, and also their workflows. Ultimately, the best magazines are passion projects. So that means it needs to be a sustainable effort for the creatives behind them. So if the business model doesn't sustain their lifestyle, there's going to be problems down the road. And so then, a lot of the results of the Magazine Accelerator in the past year has been really encouraging magazines to look at more dynamic and flexible go-to-market strategies. And so naturally, I was referring them to Ron Ollie. There really isn't another distributor who kind of tackles distribution right now in a dynamic way, looking beyond traditional newsstands, beyond traditional booksellers, but really understanding, the kind of current state of consumer habits for magazines. And so it just felt like a kind of natural extension to be partnering with someone who already had that global infrastructure. So a lot of what we'll be doing is running this accelerator program that happens remotely. So we can work with titles based absolutely anywhere. But then just kind of the nature of the work means that I'll be traveling to key cities, meeting our clients on the ground. I'm in Berlin a lot. I'm in Paris a lot. I'm coming to London a lot. I'm in New York fairly regularly. And, same with James. He travels all the time. He has partners in Barcelona, in Paris now. So it's really kind of also understanding that those human relationships are so crucial to independent magazines, and we want to operate in that personal way. So going back to your question, I think, we see ourselves as a global agency, but that really more is kind of recognizing the business needs of publishers today. It's like if you are based in Vilnius, you should have access to us just as equally as someone in London.
It's an exciting place to be.
I've been
hearing here on the stack a little bit.
Yeah, truly.
And James, I think what you're bringing here as well is the distribution expertise as well, which I think is key. Literally every single editor that comes here on the stack talks, there are a lot of challenges in the industry, right? But what you do at Ranol is so essential to magazines.
Yeah, it's a real turning point now with the merging and the kind of coming close together, books and magazines, and how those two models can cross over. And then through technology, being able to access more in terms of retailers. I mean, we're developing some tech at the moment and different bits which we haven't announced yet, but that's going to really open up the market. And having hubs so you can supply locations locally really opens up the market. So it kind of takes out any barriers of logistic costs. So that's been a real kind of game changer in the last few years, which is going to continue developing. And we want to keep building these local hubs in other communities and other parts of the world so that you can use volume and use bulk logistics to make things more accessible. And then the more publishers we can get behind it, the wider the community can become, the larger the portfolio, then it just makes the whole thing more commercially viable.
And of course, you're announcing here on the stack, but there will be an event at one of our favorite retailers as well in Amsterdam, right?
It's very true. We're kind of joking about it walking over here that we're almost having like a road show across.
Love it. And the Athenaeum is a good place to be, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So you'll be able to find us at Athenaeum on August 7th. James actually is much more of a kind of mastermind behind that event, so he can talk a little bit about that. And then after that, I will be at IndieCon. For those that are attending, there's also a very exciting inaugural event in New York taking place on September 13th. Called Case Sensitive that I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about soon, but I'll be co-hosting that event. It's a really exciting conference founded actually by independent retailers, and so it's coming from a very different perspective. And so that thought leadership element is something that's also really important to us, is, kind of bringing those larger conversations to the table. And then after Case Sensitive in New York, I'll be speaking at Magazine Street in Glasgow as well. So yeah, it's a little bit of a road show.
It is a road show.
Yeah, but James can talk a little bit more about Athenaeum because that's first on the bill.
Yeah, really excited about it. For years, we've been doing these kind of publisher get-together events in London, kind of bringing the local publishers together so they get to meet each other. And because it's usually they don't get to meet each other and discuss ideas and experiences. So they're always nice. When we was out in London, everyone has a drink and a chat, and it's just quite a casual get-together event. So we thought we'd start doing it in other cities. And we were looking at the publishers we work with, and the second biggest, apart from New York, the third biggest group we have are from Amsterdam. And obviously Athenaeum being there, one of the best stores in the world. So we thought, let's do an event there together. Nikki from the International Magazine Centres helped set it up. So we're going to do a day of expert talks, a round tables. People can come and book and speak to people about their different areas of the industry. And then we're going to have a panel in the evening with kind of talking around building a brand and developing a platform from a publishing background. So we've got guys from Wax Poetics. You're on the panel. we've got Damien from WeTransfer and Kirsten from MacGuffin. So we've got a nice little panel there. So that will go for a few hours, and then we're going to have drinks in the shop and in the square. So the idea is to try and do these in different cities and kind of bring the local community of publishers together and do that. So I think the next one after that may be Paris, which may tag on the back of this road tour, maybe.
And it's been honestly a kind of bonding element. I think where James and I even started having ideas to start this together or kind of join forces is that I think we both recognized there needed to be this kind of structural thought leadership element to the industry right now. There's a lot of people doing really great things and a lot of people who have been committed to independent magazines. You know, it's like you're really the kind of the voice of giving visibility, you know, and James has really doubled down on independent magazine distribution. You know, myself, I've been really in the seat of kind of thinking about the operations of those magazines. You know, Greg and the team at The Logical Choice has been really thinking about dynamic printer operations and production facilities. But we're now at a time where those players and key decision makers need to be in a room together. And so the more kind of conversations I was having with people about doing those types of events, James was always in those conversations too. So, you know, it feels nice to be going into business with someone that feels so passionately about really kind of lifting the whole industry up. You know, this is more than just developing an agency, but us trying to kind of collaborate and think about how we pull our resources, how we pull our insights to make sure that as many people rise up as possible, because we're both just magazine obsessives at the end of the day.
It's never a quick call, is it?
Yeah, we just go on tangents about, you know, favorite magazines we've seen, observations we have of the industry, but it feels nice to just kind of find a similar mind in it.
Yeah.
A reminder though that it's not just to do a beautiful magazine, that you need more than that. I was going to ask, what do you guys think are the challenges now that perhaps you could help editors? I did mention distribution, but I wonder if I would like to hear from both of you on that one. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, you know, going back to the fact that so many magazines are really a personal project, I think what's been really interesting for me to hear is just, you know, first and foremost, it's burnout or fatigue. Making a beautiful magazine is a huge endeavor. You know, it's not just the cost implications, but it's the time, it's the energy that people are putting into things just to create the content. And then you make a beautiful magazine, and then what? You know, so I think having someone who can be really a true partner to you in a fractional way, and that's kind of what the agency positions itself as. So we're not a huge overhead to you. We're a fractional support that really helps you think about the next step, because we recognize when you hit print, you're pretty tired. So really having someone to kind of lean on in that capacity. I think also really recognizing that a lot of people get into it because they want to develop a new type of lifestyle for themselves personally. I think a lot of us feel encouraged now to have a different approach to work-life balance or just that work-life relationship. People are feeling more encouraged to find creative outlets. And I think a magazine often presents itself as an opportunity to construct a new kind of life or have a new business model in that way. But it still requires the business logistics. So really kind of what I see it as is helping publishers develop a business plan that fits their lifestyle and helps them grow as creatives in the way that they really want to without that burnout. But then on, you know, the agency side, because also, you know, a lot of our clients are also agencies that are doing their own magazines or brands that are doing their own magazines. It's helping them really understand the why behind it. So I think a lot of brands are recognizing that magazines are really great tools in community building, but they don't fully understand why they're so effective. So helping them really kind of understand the strategy behind it, how that magazine needs to get into the hands of the right individuals, the activations that go around it, where those magazines need to show up. There's so much more that goes into it, you know, and I think that's where, like, I'm always so inspired now when I see like AFD, Fields magazine, because I think they're really understanding the nuance of community and relationship building. But then, you know, we've seen so many magazines from a brand side also just look like marketing material. So really guiding brands on that journey through trust building. That's a long-term play that can have huge benefits down the line. So it's kind of on both sides, really helping them understand the psychology of magazines and how it can have a huge impact on someone's business.
Very good point. James, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I think as Megan says, it's such a broad spectrum of potential publishers as well that we're talking with here that have very different strategies and different ways of communicating and what they want to achieve out of it. And I think with our joint experience, we can really come up with ways to make that commercially viable and maybe think of things that they hadn't necessarily thought of. We've been doing it for such a long time and seen all the mistakes and things that people might have missed, so we can just avoid all those situations. And the other big part of this is the potential brand connections. So that was the original kind of reasoning or thinking of doing this, was to try and make it more commercially viable from a production standpoint, but also to be able to bring some more kind of funding in from the other side. So
hugely so. We really see it as like an ecosystem. So because people are kind of recognizing intuitively the value of magazines, what our aim is to help magazines become more, kind of commercially viable for those opportunities, but then also make it easier for brand partners to connect with them. Because right now, there's a handful of magazines that kind of have that visibility and have that attention, but there are hundreds of truly epic titles out there with really fantastic community connections that could be really valuable for brands to leverage. But it's difficult right now for a brand to know where to go. There isn't one kind of centralized agency or even kind of like pinpoint to go for that knowledge. So we really, our goal is to create that ecosystem where we help commercialize publications, but then also help connect them with brand partners to strengthen them.
Thank you very much, James and Megan. If you want to find out more, go to inreallife.media. And now we head to sunny Brazil to speak with my friend and also founder of the Summer Hunter, Ricardo Moreno. It is a media platform looking at the sunny side of life, with a newsletter, website, print title, and of course, various commercial projects. It offers summer content the whole year round. Here is Ricardo with more, and also what Brazilians can teach Europeans about summer.
We started more than 11 years ago, as a summer platform. In the beginning, we just talk about the summer season of the year. And during the years, we just figured that the sunny side of life is much more larger to talk than just the summer as a season. So today we talk about any kind of subjects. We have a website, also an Instagram, a magazine that we launch once a year. We can talk more about that. We launched during the summer season in Brazil to mark the season. So in January, we also have a podcast. We do have a benefit club with around 2,000 subscribers, and we offer to them a different benefit as free tickets for most of the music festivals in Brazil, and also with brands. We also have a live events. We had last summer in Rio a Casa Summer Hunter, which was an amazing house in Gloria neighborhood and in Rio. We also are doing a lot of talks in events like Web Summit, in Brazilian events. Next week, we will be on Flip, the literary
which is international the most
party
important.
in Paraty.
Yeah,
it's the most important. Yeah. So we are bringing the ideas of contemporary behavior to discuss live with specialists and the audience. I think we believe the social media that we most like occurs offline, like you guys. It's very clear for us that all this that we built in social media is just excuse to meet people in real life. It's not the end of the road. It's just a road that we built to meet people and make business with the people offline.
And this is very interesting about the Summer Hunter. You guys have a very big online presence, as you said, on your Instagram. But now, I believe you've started this week, there's a daily newsletter. So I think this is an option for people that actually like the Summer Hunter, but maybe they want not necessarily a detox, but they don't want to be on their mobile all the time. They don't want to be on Instagram or any other social media all the time. So that's quite an interesting take from a digital platform.
Lots of readers were asking us that they love our content, but they just don't want to be on Instagram anymore. Or because of the algorithms, they just don't receive the news. So we decided to launch the same content of the Instagram, but in a newsletter, daily newsletter format. And it's a success.
There's something that gives you a peace of mind for some reason on a newsletter, and you feel closer to your reader. Don't you think so as well?
Definitely, yeah. Different of social media on newsletter, you have the email of the readers, so they can send us email. As the benefit club, people has our mobile number, so sometimes they send a message to us. I think like you guys in Monaco, you put your email on magazine, so readers and fans and they can send a message to you. It's different from a social media that people just send a DM.
Absolutely.
It is not a direct conversation.
Ricardo, I want to ask you, because of course, in Brazil, it might be a little bit cold, as you said, but here in Europe, it's peak summer, and, Europeans love to talk about summer, how they do summer well, but listen, I think we Brazilians, we know how to do summer. I wonder, if you compare, what word of advice, what do you think Brazilians can teach Europeans and perhaps the rest of the world about summer? Because I think you said in one of your columns at the Summer Hunter that Brazilians, we know summer best, right?
I think we are the best on summer, where less is more, right? Just a trunk and a pair of Havaianas or any flip-flops is enough to enjoy 3 months of joy in Brazil. What I miss when I go to Europe or US to live the summer is it's a Brazilian word called malemolência.
Oh,
I don't know how to translate in English.
Gosh, I love this word. I love this word so much, and it's so hard to translate, I have to say.
I don't know. I think it's like to melting in a good way. It's like the swing, but not direct to the music. It's the swing to deal with other people, to eat food, to play frescobol or altinha, to create a business to sell, anything at the sand, from canga to shrimp, to fried shrimp. I think we have this complete environment of business in Brazil during the summer, mainly, that is unbeatable. You can eat any kind of food, you can drink any kind of drink or juice, fresh juice, cigarettes to any kind of hat or glass at the sand.
I love that. And they were trying to change that in Rio de Janeiro, but thankfully it didn't go through, because I was very concerned, I have to say, Ricardo.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to stop to listen music in high volume and at the beaches. And some places it is not allowed anymore. This is very annoying. We were talking before this program about the word cafone. I don't know if you can translate as
tacky.
It's not cheesy. Tacky. Yeah.
Tacky could be a good one.
But it's not. Maybe what is tacky for me is not tacky for you. So if someone are listening classical music at the beach, maybe it's tacky for one and not tacky for other. It's not about the taste, about to respect other people. But as you said, thankfully, the law that not allow people to sell corn, esfirra, or mate-leão at the beach did not pass.
I have to say, one of my favorite things about the Summer Hunter as a reader as well is that it's the destinations in Brazil that you cover, because it's not necessarily the most touristic. I always had amazing discoveries. So now, if someone is going to Brazil, it doesn't matter if it's in the summer, winter, because I know on your website you have a little mini guides of a couple of places in Brazil. Which ones would you personally recommend? Which regions or areas or a city, or you can pick?
Oh, cool. And you know what? When you decide to make these mini guides from Brazil, before that, we were doing a global mini guides about Greece, about, I don't know, any kind of place in Europe or US or Australia. Then we realized that you guys, Financial Times, New York Times, Lonely Planet, you name it, do this much better than us. From other side, nobody's doing a Brazilian guides except Rio, São Paulo, and maybe Salvador. So we have more than 7,000 kilometers of beaches in Brazil that nobody knows. You have Bahia, a huge state, and most of the people go to Salvador. You have much more than that in Bahia. If you go to Piauí, and maybe you like kite surf, you have much more than Icaraí de Amontoado or other beaches. But this year, I would strongly recommend Amazon and Belém. I think Belém, lots of Brazilian and, of course, foreign people need to know. There is no sea, but there is a lot of river beaches. You are literally at the door of the Amazon forest. And plus, you have the COP30 on November or October. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to go to Amazon starting on Belém do Pará.
Great tips. I never been. So see, you always tell me to do something new. Ricardo, what about, okay, let's talk about the plans, because you do have a print issue, which I've read. I love print, and I think there's a desire to it, because I know you always leave it in the coolest places in São Paulo and other Brazilian cities as well.
Mm-hmm.
So besides the print, are you looking forward to go to Filip in Paraty, which is a super exciting event? Tell us about what's coming up at the World of the Summer Hunter.
Yeah, the second semester, we are very focused in two things. As I told you, to spread the word, the solar word of the Summer Hunter during the offline events. So how can you bring the stories that we talk on social media, newsletter, to a audience live? And we are also developing editorial projects for global brands like Itaú and Samsung. So we started to be consulted by them that they want to assume our solar word, but on their own platforms, which it's very good for us. Mm-hmm. So we're starting to develop editorial project for them, not only on Summer Hunter solar system, but also on their own platforms.
Thank you, Ricardo. For more information, go to their website, thesummerhunter.com. And talking about summer, we're heading to another lovely and warm destination, Hydra in Greece. The literary Greek island always attracted writers and artists. Someone that has always been fascinated with it is Josh Hickey, who edits the Journal of the Hydra Book Club. Their Volume 3 is out now. I had the pleasure to speak with Josh and also their managing editor, Filip Niedenthal.
It's the 5th year of the book club, which seems to have gone by in the blink of an eye. And though the actual book club, which you know about, opens in the museum in September, as always, we just came through a big month of programming here in Hydra and in Athens with the launch of the new issue of the journal. But, we sort of take advantage of the launch of our journal to do programming. We invite writers to read their work. We had a really cool lineup in Athens, and then we did a week of programming here in Hydra. And the turnout was really, really phenomenal. So every year we gain a bit of momentum and, we step a little bit outside of the previous year's boundary. So it's quite exciting.
All I can say, I think the mayor of Hydra, I don't know if there is a mayor, that he should give you or she give you a key for the services you do for the community.
I'll send you his address so you can suggest that to him directly.
It will be my pleasure. And of course, Filip, the journal, every year there's a theme. And this year's theme is quite a beautiful word. One of my favorite words, actually, which is sublime. Or sublime, let's say.
Well, the theme of the journal always echoes the theme of the book club. So Josh came up with, last year it was vacation. The first one 2 years ago was utopia. There's always a little connection, something that reminds us of this island of Hydra. Here on Hydra, the sublime is all around us in terms of landscape, but also thoughts and ideas and the artists who have come here for over a century now. The theme of the journal is sublime, which will be then repeated in the selection of books at the book club in September.
And of course, the journal is out. The book club is open in September, but the issue is out. So tell us perhaps some of the contributors, because the list is extensive. I feel that the journal itself is becoming more and more established as well. So people know that they should expect a new one around this time of the year, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is the 3rd year that we're doing the journal. This time around, it is the fattest issue that we've had so far. We have surpassed the 200-page mark, which is quite exciting. We follow sort of our, let's say, manifesto or our ethos is mirroring the way Hydra society is constructed. It's for the 100 years been Greek and international intellectuals and artists exchanging ideas. Still very active today. So we apply that to the print medium. So if you look in the list of contributors, you have really exciting Greek contemporary artists and writers like Eleni Sikelianos, Eva Papamargariti, you have Amanda Michalopoulou, mixed with contemporary writers from around the world. You have Suleiman Adonia, who lives in Brussels. He was interviewed by the supermodel Lia Kebede, which is quite exceptional. We have New York artist Desi Santiago. We have Egil Sæbjørnsen, an Icelandic artist. So we have this diversity of contributors, which I feel is not just through nationality, but also through, let's say, medium. So one thing that we're particularly proud of, and which is expressed perhaps better in this issue than in others, is working with contemporary artists or non-writers. In this case, we've worked with some musicians even, and that's an exciting thing that I'll continue in a second. But we look at so much contemporary art, and a lot of video installation work is very text-focused or has a really compelling dialogue or monologue in it. So in this issue, we have transcripted work from different contemporary artists, and we treat that work as a literary device rather than a contemporary art installation. And working with those artists, the one that comes to mind is Alice Bucknell. It's very satisfying for them also. We have a transcript of her work, Earthseed 2150, which is also a very nice reference to Octavia Butler. And in the video, there's a seagull that's flying over the Earth after the last humans have left.
I think it's actually called an Arctic tern.
An Arctic tern. I call it a gull, sorry.
And visually is a stunning piece, by the way, as well, on the journal.
It's, just being able to print that as a literary work is quite exciting. And I think it's exciting to the artists also, because it offers them a chance to express a different facet of the work. And I mentioned music, something that's this intangible emotion that comes from music is now accompanying our issues. And so for this issue, two really wonderful friends and musicians who are in the band LCD Sound System, Nancy Wong and Nick Milheiser, worked together and did a custom track for us. And that track, you can hear it on our Instagram. It's not on Spotify. It's nowhere. But at Mag Culture, for example, in London, you can get, and here in Hydra, you can buy a limited edition that has a specially pressed vinyl that's inserted, sort of a mini vinyl that's inserted into the issue.
Hand-painted by Nancy.
Hand-painted by Nancy Wong, and it's inserted right at the moment of Nancy's poem. So, just another example of how we sort of have expanded our view of what literary means and how we can be inclusive of other artistic medium in our literary expression.
That's fantastic. And LCD Sound System, what a band. I'm a huge fan.
Legend.
Legend. So it's good to know that actually if you're in Hydra or going to Mag Culture, you're able, to grab a copy and kind of listen to the song itself as well.
That's right.
And one thing that I noticed, and again, it's the small details that I think makes a journal. Even the ads has something special to say. There is a vibe. There's a very sexy one from Charvet from Paris and Torso, New York.
Yes.
What a great companion to the journal as well. So I think even that you guys pay attention to it, right?
Well, even the advertising is a personal connection for the most part. It's our friends and the companies that we're friends with.
That's right. And a lot of those ads are sort of not really, they're ads that we offer. So all of the bookstore ads you see, that's our gesture to support independent booksellers in Greece.
And Filip, I just want to ask you about 77 Press. I remember last year we were talking about new titles and this exciting new venture. How's it going? What can you tell us about at the moment in terms of projects?
Well, I just sent to the printers a book by Charlene Clift, whom I discovered here on Hydra, thanks to Josh. She used to live here in the 1950s. And the book that I published last year was her account of her first few months living on the island of Hydra. That was called Peel Me a Lotus. That came out last year. And then this year, coming next week really, is Mermaid Singing, the Polish translation of Mermaid Singing, which is a book that she wrote prior to coming to Hydra when she was living on Kalimnos with her husband and 2 children. So that's the latest offering from 77 Press, but we're also expanding the Hydra Book Club. We'll be publishing not only the Journal of the Hydra Book Club, but this September when the book club opens, we'll be sharing this new book of poetry by the British poet Peter Thickett, whom we also met here on Hydra. He was his poems were in the first issue in Utopia in 2023. And now we're lucky enough to publish his first book of poetry called Sewerlock. It's an exceptional piece of work. And we're very happy and privileged to be able to publish this together as the Hydra Book Club and to work with Peter.
And it's really, that will be the first of, a new series of published work, outside of the journal, primarily literary, but we're not limiting ourselves to that. So we're looking into publishing also image books under, a Hydra Book Club imprint.
And Josh, I was thinking, although I've never been to Hydra, but from what I'm hearing, especially from you, I feel that is a very community-led place, that it takes you to meet all those wonderful people. Do you feel that? Is there an organic element to that? We all meet in Hydra in a way, and you get inspiration for all your projects there.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of levels of that. If you came to see us, you inevitably meet people. It's, I think one of the reasons that happens is because there are no cars on this island and the village is quite small. So you socialize in a very, very different way than were you to be getting in a car and driving to a beach or some other town. Everyone really is together here. And we have a very fortunate, because we've been here for so long, we interact with a really incredible community of artists, writers, incredible people that, we just did a week of programming at the Old Carpet Factory, which is an artist residency and recording studio. They've published a book last year. They do really interesting work. They just came out with an EP with a sound artist who was doing archival recordings of music from the island. There's really this ecosystem around us. There's a new publication called Glota, which is writing from, of, and about Hydra. It's a very specific Hydra publication that will be available only on the island. This is quite exciting. During our week of programming, also, our friend Hella Press was launched. And for this, we did a reading with the poet Taras Gembik, whose poetry, incidentally, is in our journal. But then we're also launching, I feel like we're publishing, but we're also supporting this publishing community, which seems to be growing up around us. But this is definitely the nature of the island, and it always has been. It's very collaborative, very friendly. It can lean a bit too festive at times, but, we're into that too.
And sometimes it can get a bit meta, because one of the evenings for a week of programming was the screening of this short film by Małgosia Bela and Paweł Pawlikowski, who are also our fellow residents here on Hydra. And the film was shot at the Old Carpet Factory last year and screened at the Old Carpet Factory in exactly the same space where it was shot 2 weeks ago with the incredible Polish pianist Marcin Masecki, who's in the movie alongside Małgosia. And he gave an incredible performance after the screening. You can watch that short movie called Muse on Mubi, and there's a special code that allows you to access this movie in the Journal of the Hydra Book Club in this issue. Sublime.
Thank you very much, Josh and Filip. For more information, go to hydrabookclub.com. And if you have plans to go to Hydra, their Hydra bookstore opens on the 5th of September. And that's it for this week's show. My thanks to our editor, Jack Jewers. If you have any comments or queries, feel free to write to me, Fernando, at fp@monocle.com. And remember, we're back next Saturday at 10 a.m. London time. Meanwhile, you can always listen again to The Stack at monocle.com or on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You've been listening to The Stack. I'm Fernando Augusto Pacheco. Until next time, it's goodbye from me.